Hey y'all, it's Livy Redden. Welcome back to Today is the Future. This is going to be a follow-up episode from an episode I posted a while ago that was titled A Priority Detector, the First Step to Living in Alignment. That was episode 119, and a lot of people have been listening to that episode, especially coming from coming from the TED Talk, looking for a deeper understanding of this living in alignment philosophy that I talk about and how to do it, what it looks like. And so, if you want to go listen to that first episode, essentially, I walk you through an exercise that helps you take audit of the things you prioritize. Because what we prioritize is actually very natural. And when we look at our actions, the things we spend our money on, the things we tend to steer a conversation towards, the things and people we surround ourselves with, when you take audit of those things, there's usually a through line of about the three things that you prioritize the most. And then we can kind of adjust those things to be more aligned with who we are and what we want. Because ultimately, really, if you look at those three priorities, the outcomes of this exercise I walk you through, really, they'll kind of tell you what your life's going to look like. And so if you want to go listen to that and then come back, it's in the show notes. But this episode is a second step to living in alignment, and this is developing internal trust and how to listen to your intuition. And for me, this is also a spiritual discussion that has to do with, my relationship with God and a higher power. But if that is not you, this information is also very relevant to just building intuition and trust with yourself. And the reason why I think this is the reason why this is step 2 is that once we take audit of where we're at and what we're prioritizing, figuring out what is to be adjusted to live more aligned ultimately is an internal process of self-exploration. And I think a lot of times we immediately go external. We're like, well, if I read enough self-help books or listen to enough podcasts or, go to enough speaking engagements, speaking seminars, someone will tell me what I want. And that is simply not the case. Living in alignment is at its base an internal process of self-discovery and self-trust and taking action on what feels good in our bodies and in our hearts and in our soul. And I think this matters so much in today's day and age because as we live in a current information-based society, and not only in a society where information is so easily accessible, but also our biggest currency is our attention, companies are bidding for our attention. Our attention is our currency. Our attention is being preyed upon really at every moment. And I think more than ever, we are quickly losing touch with our internal trust because of this. And people are profiting off of it. And they will. And at the start of this discussion, for an example of this, I go on social media for 5 seconds. I scroll on TikTok for 5 seconds, and I have, 12 strangers that don't even know me being like, well, in your dating life, if they do this, then it's this, and it's and this rule, and the 3-month rule, and this rule, and if he wanted to, he would. And also, when it comes to your finances, if you're not doing this, then you're failing in this way, and you need to do this. And this is a part of that. And when it's your career, then you're doing this wrong. And just so you know, when you put that in your body and that sort of help thing is going to do, and it's like, shut up. Shut up for a second, by the way. Can we all shut up for a second? Okay? There are so many rules being put on you every day when you scroll. People telling you that they know you better than you know yourself. And that is simply not the case. These things are helpful, but ultimately, You have the answers you need. You, in your room, alone, in your silence, sitting in your inner knowing, the answers are right there for the claiming. And we're losing touch with that. We're losing touch. And there's two pieces to this episode. Of one is I'm going to tell you three things to help you navigate the overwhelm and exhaust of all these external sources and advice and rules. And then I want to talk about how to develop internal trust and knowing. And to start navigating those external sources, I really think sometimes the best thing you can do is to stop taking people's advice. And this is why. No one knows you like you. And that's why when you go to a good therapist, they ask you a lot of questions, and ultimately they're leading you to water. They're teaching you how to listen internally. You know, there's that adage, whatever, like what is that? Is that from the Bible? What is that? If you give a hungry man a fish, you feed him for a day, but if you teach him how to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. And ultimately, that's the goal. And for example, what a good therapist would be teaching you how to do is teaching you how to fish, teaching you how to guide yourself internally. And really all they're doing is helping you work through and get through some of these blockages that are keeping you from who you are, who you've always been, and helping you listen to who you want to be. That's why I do think one of the best things we can do sometimes is stop taking advice. And, you know, for me, just for an example, the most fulfilling aligned decisions I've ever made, some of them I didn't even ask anybody for advice for, because I knew so deeply internally that there was no choice. If I wanted to live a line, there was no choice. I didn't need anyone else to tell me anything. And I think that is true for everybody. And that being said, and asking for advice is important in the regard that people can help us see our blind spots. Oftentimes we are very close to the picture and we're seeing it very zoomed in, and oftentimes we need someone else to pull us out, to help us really see a little more what might be going on, and where might we want to go. And with that being said, these are my 3 rules to navigating that advice from someone that I'm trying to have, you know, put up some bumpers for me so I'm not just gutterballing it. You know, when I ask for advice, I'm often just needing someone to I need those bumpers up. I need someone kind of helping me get that big picture. And these are those 3 rules for navigating that advice. 1, taking note of who you're asking. 2, the most important advice from people is the people that have been there, done that, and can show you where your blind spots are. And 3, asking more than one person, getting a multitude of insights. So I'm going to break these 3 things down briefly. 1, taking note of who you're asking. I have made the mistake in my life of going to the same people for everything. And, you know, and a lot of that had to do with, I have a very trusting relationship with my sister and my mom. And I would go to them for advice on everything. Moving, finances, business, friends, relationships. And I think it became kind of harmful and almost codependent, because although they know me better than everyone, they've seen me in every phase, they know the deepest pieces of me, the deepest pieces of my shame and my fear. We also all 3 of us live vastly different lives. And I've come to learn that sometimes, even though that's my natural inclination is to go to them, taking audit of, have they been there, done that? Are they, if in this arena my outcome was their outcome, if I were to swap lives with them in this arena, is that what I want? And additionally, have they been there, done that? And I've come to learn, and they've come to learn, we've learned this with each other, that sometimes we are not the best people to be giving each other advice in some arenas. And so, for example, I've created a group of people that I have explicitly asked, can I call you when I need business advice, leadership advice? I have people in each of these areas that I I would swap positions with them in this area of expertise or this arena of life gladly, because I look up to them in that arena. And people that I see that have really healthy relationships, I go to those people for that advice. People that I see that have a really successful business, I go to those people for that advice. For people that I perceive as really good leaders, I go to them for that advice. And so I think if you're going to one or just like one to three individuals for advice in every arena, I'm gonna need you to rethink that. I'm gonna need you to rethink that, and you might need to expand your net of mentors and your net of individuals that you trust. And then that second thing, which goes along with that, is, have they been there, done that? Because really and truly, the only people that are going to see our blind spots and things that we're not saying are the people that have been there, done that. And so, have they been there, done that? And then that third thing is asking more than one person. There are so many times where I wish I would have taken into account or asked more than one person sooner. In dating situations, in business situations, I'm like, why did I not collect more insights? Because the answer became a mixture of the advice I was getting around me. And that mixture is what felt right. And so I would say in almost every scenario that you're seeking advice, ask more than one person. And then moving to that part two of how to develop internal trust and how to create a better sense of intuition, and actually listening to it and not questioning that pull. And being able to, a lot of really impressive artists and anyone, actors, authors, business people, mothers, fathers, people that are creating and leading. A lot of these people that are good at what they do refer to it not as a manifestation of themselves, but the manifestation of and the channeling of a higher power, of a higher spirituality, of the energy of the universe around them. And I am a big believer in this, that we are vessels of channeling. And as we learn to channel, we learn about ourselves, and we learn about the world around us, and we learn the ways that we are connected to the world around us and the people around us and the energy around us, this channeling. And in order to do that, we do need to build trust with ourselves. And to do that, I first want to acknowledge that I think the world has taught young people in a lot of ways to not trust themselves, that they're too young, they're too dumb, they're too naive to think that they have the answers. When actually, I think young people are some of the most in tune people out there. Children, teenagers, these people are incredibly in tune. I've talked to countless parents that learn from their children's intuition and observances every day. And I think, do not discredit the wisdom, although we do not have the wisdom of age. young people have the wisdom of having decades less of blockages and limiting beliefs and doubts that a lot of older folks have. We have the gift of connection. That's important. And in addition to that, I don't think it is necessarily age that connects you to your intuition and your inner knowing. It's three things. People that don't trust themselves, they have three characteristics. They do not spend time with themselves. They are disconnected from fun and curiosity, and they lack internal trust, which then causes them to lack action. They are indecisive. And I want to go through each of these things. Lack of time spent with oneself, disconnected from fun and curiosity, and indecisive, and kind of walk you through on how you can develop these things and become reconnected with these things. So that first piece is making sure that you are regularly and ritually spending time with yourself. And this is when I say spend time with yourself, I mean there's two sort of veins to that. There's a vein of doing things alone. I think it is important to learn to enjoy one's own company and enjoy doing things by yourself, whatever that might look like being able to go get groceries by yourself, to even travel by yourself, to go to a concert or a movie by yourself, to go to color by yourself, to watch a movie by yourself, to do things and enjoy doing things with one's own company. I do think that that matters. And then in a second vein, spending time with yourself in a state of self-reflection and creating space for what is going on internally to speak to you. And what that can look like is going on a 20-minute walk every morning without headphones. Silence. Listening to the birds, listening to the cars, walking. Sitting in silence, laying on your back on your couch and just staring at the ceiling. I'm not even kidding. Staring at the ceiling for 10 minutes. Meditation. And I walk people through there's many different types of meditation, and I walk people through that in my book. I think that's a very helpful chapter in my book. I call the chapter is titled Meditation 101, and I walk people through that. And to be clear, if you have not meditated before, or you tried meditating and hated it, you were probably trying to do advanced meditation first, which is passive meditation, which is the meditation we all think of where you're just sitting in silence with your eyes closed and just like sitting there. That is a very hard meditation to do regularly. And so if you haven't really dipped your toes in meditation, I would encourage you to explore active meditation and the different forms of it, which is also something I go through in my book. You can also, just Google active forms of meditation. That can be yin yoga. I think that's a great active form of meditation. Walking meditations. I love a guided meditation because oftentimes then someone is leading you to enter a meditative state. There are observance-based meditations where essentially, you might look at an object for a period of time and take notice of its details, things like that. These are active forms of meditation that I think are much more accessible to most people, and especially those that have not practiced meditation previously. Also, there's an app called Open. It is a paid subscription, but I've used a lot of meditation apps. Between you and me, I think apps like Calm and Headspace, I don't think they're good. And this is the first app where I think is truly done in a way that is really well executed, and they create a lot of their own music on this app that actually is meant and guided by experts to put people into meditative states. And that app's called Open. They were actually a client of mine for a while, and I'm a big believer in what they do. and I think their subscription is absolutely worth it. So if you want a meditation app, Open is definitely my suggestion. And then in addition to another way of spending that self-reflection time is journaling. And I in complete honesty, journaling has never been my regular way of self-reflection. On a weekly basis, on a day-to-day basis, I'm going to be doing different forms of meditation, going on walks in the morning without any external stimulus like headphones. But I know for a lot of people, journaling really works. For me, I usually journal when I feel inspired, and it's going to be more just like writings about like life observations, or I have gone through a few journaling workbooks that I found really helpful for me to like work through specific things. But as far as like a regular self-reflection practice, I don't usually do a ton of journaling. However, if you're someone that is wanting to build on internal trust and self-reflection, I think a great journaling prompt is, or especially not even something you need to do daily, but when you're trying to make a decision and you're wanting to get in tune with your intuition, is asking yourself, what do I actually want in this scenario? Like really and truly, if no one was going to judge me, if no one was going to tell me what to do, what do I want? And you can take a guess if you're not really sure, and then asking yourself 2 to 3 times why. Take the answer and ask yourself why. So to give you an example, say, I don't know, say you want to move to Austin, Texas, I don't know. And that's what you put down. You're like, really and truly, if money was not a thing, if friends were not a thing, like the community, all the external, my friends pressure me to stay where I am, whatever, I would want to move to Austin, Texas. And so why? Why is that? And your answer might be, I don't know, I want a new experience. I've always lived in the same place. Why do you want a new experience? Because I'm bored. Okay. I'm feeling bored. My life feels mundane. Okay, why am I feeling bored? Where is that boredom coming from? And compare that to a time in my life where I didn't feel bored. Well, I'm not really actively learning or being curious the way I used to. I don't really feel lit up by the people around me. So it's not so much boredom, maybe it's that I feel like I've grown apart from the people around me. Okay, so is Austin, Texas going to solve that? You know? And so I think decisions like that, not that you shouldn't go to Austin, Texas, but really getting to why you're doing certain things. And the more you can kind of get to your drivers and your intentions, the easier you'll be able to tap into those and understand yourself in decision-making processes. And the second thing that I brought up of people that the traits of people that lack internal trust, that second thing is that they are disconnected from fun and curiosity. And to define that a bit more, they no longer are doing things simply for the reason of doing them. For themselves, for cuz. They're no longer doing the things they loved when they were children. Learning because they're curious about the world around them. And I truly feel, in a lot of ways, for the world to be more peaceful, we don't need more facts and statistics about why the world isn't peaceful. We need more people reconnected to their curiosity. If we were more curious about the people around us and the world around us, if we all continue to ask why, what, our disconnection from that is a big reason why we lack peace internally and externally. We are disconnected from our curiosity, which also ultimately leads us to being disconnected from our empathy. And so I think if you are not doing things simply for the fun and sake of doing them, if we are not doing the things we did as kids, being curious and continuing to learn about the world around us, we are going to get disconnected from our internal trust. Because, when we're making decisions, we want our intuition to guide us. But then how can we expect our intuition to want to be there when we're not watering it? When we're not letting it, be curious and have fun. And then that third piece is usually people that lack internal trust are indecisive. And a lot of this, I think being decisive and listening to that internal intuition, this is a learned skill. This is a learned skill. Because the biological human, the natural human, does everything in its power to survive. And it is constantly at war with that higher intuitive self. And this is just the state of humanness. We have to be able to confront that survival piece of ourselves that acts in fear and be able to override it, essentially, and be able to take action despite maybe not being totally sure, maybe being a little bit nervous, and welcoming discomfort. A lot of the most indecisive people in my life really struggle welcoming discomfort. Not only welcoming it, but choosing it, knowing that the outcome of choosing that discomfort is greater than in not doing so, in not taking that leap. And I think the more we lean into discomfort, the less we become anxious about it, but the more we become excited about it. Because those feelings are actually pretty similar in our bodies. And the more we take action on where we feel our intuition is pulling us, the easier it becomes. It's a learned skill. It's a learned skill. And to learn that skill, it can even start with the small day-to-day things of, not, for example, here's a small example. About 2 months ago, I've always really loved kind of like dressing the way I want to dress and dressing for fun. And I did that as a kid, and that's just a big piece of who I am. And I found myself opening up Pinterest or like my outfit inspo notes app every day before I got dressed. And I remember one morning like setting my phone down, and I was like, what am I doing? What am I doing? Do I not have the capacity to look in my closet and be like, these would be fun things to put together? This makes me feel happy. And I found myself re-entering, dressing myself to look cool for others. Then I found myself in this period of dressing for others. And I was like, what are we doing? And I deleted my Pinterest. And I was like, no, this is not aligned with who I want to be. I want to dress in a way that is not for others, and that I can look in my closet and be like, I really like these things. These things really make me happy. And I'm going to put them on my avatar, And I just it starts with the little things like that. And being aware of how often we're also seeking advice when we don't need it. Because if you're like every decision going to other people for advice, every time you're doing that, you're furthering yourself from that internal trust. And so also making sure that we're not seeking advice on everything that we do. And focusing on, what do I want? What do I like? Where am I actually pulled? What was I like as a child before I was pleasing everybody? And so those would be my 3 things of developing those. Because when we become disconnected from our trust and our intuition, when we are not spending moments for self-reflection and doing things by ourselves, when we are disconnected from our fun and our curiosity just for the sake of it, and when we are not taking action and leaning into the discomfort when we are feeling the pull and building that skill of taking the jump. So that is the second step to living in alignment. Taking notice of how we compartmentalize and internalize the external sources of advice and rules and help we receive externally, and then also intentionally building that internal trust and spending time with ourselves. Just like any other relationship, we spend time with that person to build trust with them. It's the same thing with ourselves. You expect to trust yourself when you aren't actually spending time with yourself? How could she trust you? She doesn't even know you. Y'all don't talk, you know? So be with her, be with them, be with yourself. Because she wants you there, she wants you around. And listen to her, and y'all will build trust. Thank you so much for listening. I hope this was a helpful next step into that living in alignment. And I will see you in the next episode.